Hello and welcome to Zgermanguy Reviews. I am Zgermanguy. And welcome back, my friends, to another edition of Kingdom Hearts, a retrospective. Now, you probably are wondering why this thumbnail here shows me in very angry and screaming, even though it's a well-known fact that I love everything Kingdom Hearts with a religious fanaticism. Well, funny story. Because for one thing, even I can't defend the book series. And second, I had the plan to start another channel once, one where I would read books by all kinds of radicals, until a friend of mine pointed out something not so unimportant to me. What if, just hypothetically, you get in trouble with the law? And I was like, yeah, that would be bad. I shouldn't be legally considered an adult. And he was quite right about that. Many books that I was going to read are on the German blacklist. And since my country doesn't have the same free speech laws as America, for example, even if it was for educational purposes, it would be not so looked well upon. But of course, in my case, I would have just made fun of their shitty views and delusional ideas about the world. For example, this cover from the neo-Nazi book The Turner Diaries. The terrorists on that picture are being hunted by the equality police. Because if there's one thing we have to worry about in America, it's that there is too much equality. I mean, it's in the 70s when this thing came out, so it's like a few years after the civil rights movement. Racism solved. Now we are just saying we don't want those folks not to go too far here. And how hilarious is it, by the way, that you would find this kind of shit on right-wing forums today? Actually, that's not funny at all. So, yeah, I would have loved to read some hardcore crazy shit and rip it apart live, but I'd rather not take it up with the policeman. So, here's my quick review of the two books I had originally planned to read. As already mentioned, The Turner Diaries and its quasi-sequel, The Day of the Rope. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? What the fuck? Like, if a person had been given meth instead of milk and was the product of 300 years of incest, the book that person would write would still 10 times make more sense than any of this shit that was written by people who had worms in their brain. But this is already getting a little bit too dangerous for my taste, so all I'm going to say is maybe I will get around reading some Ayn Rand here someday. I'm looking so forward to it. I mean, it clearly can classify as hate-mongering fiction, but thankfully it has no swastika ideology in it, so it should be fine. Anyway, to get back to what I was trying to say. I was pointed out this unfortunate reality of my country's laws, but I had the thumbnail already made and I would hate to waste money, so I had to get creative. So instead, we are going to look at some Kingdom Hearts writing today. The official writing, not some fanficky stuff. Although since this is a complete look at the Kingdom Hearts series, I guess I will do that too eventually. Let's start with the books first, because they are an interesting case. As you would have guessed, the books tell us the stories of the games they are based on, but they cut out huge chunks. Entire levels are not even mentioned. And the reason for this is most likely to make it feel less video gamey and spare the author the trouble of having to come up with plot lines to make it all cohesive. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wish he did, because then the book would actually be interesting. Speaking of the author, his name is Tomoko Kanemaki and the cover art was provided by Shiro Amano. And thank God that is the case, because we all know if Nomura was the author, he would put in plot relevant details for future games into the book about games that came out years ago. Being a bookworm since an early age, I discovered a very interesting development throughout the series. The first one was published in 2005 and was written very much as a children's book. The sentences are very simple and there are barely any descriptions for characters and environments. That is, they are kept extremely short. Which makes the first few books bad adaptations. Sure, I knew how everything was supposed to look like, so I had no problems visualizing the worlds, but I thought about what it must be like for someone who has never heard of Kingdom Hearts, and this was his first encounter with it. There is not much content that sparks your imagination if you not already know the games. As the book series progresses, however, the writing gets a much clearer, young teenager vibe, which tells me the series has been written with the thought in mind that the fan audience's ages. As someone who is familiar with the series from the start, there is a problem with it that every Kingdom Hearts fan has to deal with eventually. The endless repetition. Game after game, book after book, we visit the same worlds over and over again. And yeah, they try to put a new spin on it every time, but the stories they lean so much on previous adventures. Yes, nostalgia is a central theme in the series, and in Chain of Memory it worked, but they really overdid it eventually. When Coded came out, that was the moment they really overdid it. My love for the series is endless, but even the strongest marriages can be put to the test. It's not like there isn't any other Disney stuff you could have used, many of which already had been in your game. So much Disney stuff! At this point, I actually do think I have to swallow every piece of Kingdom Hearts content in existence, as without it, the series here wouldn't be complete. And second, I am an addict. I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. Sure, you could say it's my own fault for reading a book about a story that I already know, but no, I won't let that count. There are many adaptations that don't feel that way because they add a lot of additional things to it, which should be the point of having an additional work about the same piece of art. Going in, I expected to read a lot of inner monologue and the thoughts of our beloved pufferfish hair hero, or things that would fleshen out the universe a bit. But sadly, it really is mostly just retelling what is happening in the game. The number of times we hear what Sora or Riku think can be counted on one hand. And not even the fight scenes are really good. It's mostly they encountered Heartless, they defeated them quickly, they moved on. And if the book actually does describe a battle, it's always not longer than one or two sentences. And I don't get it. The first book is 288 pages long. Yes, it would be a huge amount of work to put in, let's say, 100 more pages just for fights and more detailed descriptions, but it's possible. I do understand you don't want to rewrite the whole narrative so that all worlds would fit into one book, but if you don't bother giving us anything new, why bother at all? So, why did you decide to write a Kingdom Hearts book?
Money!
I would love to hear the opinion of someone who hasn't any prior experience with the games and can give me his thoughts on it, but I am very confident that he is going to say the same thing I did. No one really needed a novel series, and since this was not Nomura's own project but he just oversaw it, I suspect it was someone else's decision so that poor fanatics like me would throw more money their way. It's like the relationship between a cult leader and his followers at this point. I should say I haven't finished reading all the novels yet, but I don't expect any significant changes. If I'm wrong, I will gladly mention it in another video in the future as a side note, but as of now, the book series of Kingdom Hearts really isn't great. The manga, on the other hand, is freaking amazing. Back again is Shiro Amano, who drew the entire manga, and he did an excellent job. Again, being another medium than video games, changes had to be made, but this time they all fit in perfectly. The manga does exactly what I hoped the book would do. We experience the same story yet again, yes, but there is enough stuff to keep you motivated reading. The artwork, for one. We don't get the same dialogue word for word, only when it's necessary. And there are even some tasty little lore nuggets here and there that the games didn't even have. For example, we see Vexen's little cloning program up close, with which he created a copy of Riku and later Shion. But what makes the manga really stand out is the comedy. It's nothing but gold. We get so many great images out of nowhere that had me rolling on the floor for several minutes before I could continue. It is too bad that most mangas, unlike comics, are not colored. Every new book we get these amazing colorful cover illustrations, but then it's all black and white again. Which is in manga always like an appetizer for a meal that looks way better on the menu card. I really hope Japan's printing firms do a reprint of most mangas or allow customers to get copies per request. And before I forget, it's also fucking brutal. Holy shit! This manga does not pull any punches. It's violent as fudge cake, which makes me wonder why aren't the games like that? Considering that despite the image of Disney being all singing birds and shit, is everything but. I can't end this video without having complained a little bit, however. As with the books, the manga starts out as a mixed bag, but gets increasingly better, only that the manga climbs to near perfection, whereas the books are acceptable at best. For instance, in early entries of the manga, we would get cheated out of a lot of the fight sequences. One panel a fight would begin, and then the next the enemy would be defeated without us having been able to see how we got from point A to B. Also, a lot of the narrative feels a bit rushed at times, but not as nearly as bad as the book that somehow felt as if it was rushing to get to the next plot point, but also dragging. But as soon as the Chain of Memory storyline begins, those problems are all but gone. Sadly, it got cancelled after they finished the manga version of the Kingdom Hearts 2 plotline. And it wasn't even because of low selling numbers. No, the manga was even listed among the top 150 bestsellers of USA Today. What happened was that Tokyopop, the publisher of the series, underwent a company restructuring, and so the series was cancelled. So it was well received, it sold very well, but it was still cancelled because some pencil pusher needed his desk moved from room 202 to 212. This is why I hate capitalism! If the manga had ended at that point, it would have still felt complete. That's because the manga was smart enough not to include the 101 little confusion tactics from Nomura's playbook. And also because the first 3 games were the most internally consistent, before the good man completely lost his mind. But in a good way? Question mark? Big question mark? Thankfully, with the popularity of Kingdom Hearts 3, the manga got revitalized. But only at Kingdom Hearts 3, which makes it also very complicated for people who only read the manga to understand the story. But I guess this is just not my problem. Zgermanguy out and auf Wiedersehen.